Hello everyone, myself Neha Sukhija from the Department of Buddhist Studies of Delhi University. Today I am going to discuss about module number 6. The paper number is 12, Philosophy of Buddhism. The title of this topic is Critical Study of Apoha. According to Buddhists, reality is composed of momentary particulars which are totally different. There is no sameness in reality. All ideas and thought of sameness or identity are referring to imagination. All class notions are constructions of thought, which means apoha. They are only names having no objectivity. This is known as nominalism and apohavad. It maintains only the subjectivity of conceptual knowledge. After going through this module, you will be able to learn about the problem of universal in Indian philosophy and how Buddhists solve this problem of universal by giving the theory of apohavad, which is in a Western perspective known as nominalism. Now, before going into this module, I would like to explain what is apoha and what is the problem of universal and how it is criticized by other schools. The problem of universal is one of the basic problems in Indian philosophy. It basically are appearance upon experience, thought and language. Basically, there are two types of knowledge of things. One is sensuous, other is conceptual. Sensuous knowledge shows an object in its concrete and specific angle, whereas conceptual knowledge shows the same thing with the no note of particularity. In other words, the thing which exists outside the mind as showed by sensuous knowledge are specific or particular, whereas concepts of them are universal. Similarly, this thing is true of our language too. It is an important fact that all words except proper names are journal in our language. On the other hand, what exists in the outside world are only particulars. Now the question naturally arises, are these concepts and words are true? Do they provide us any knowledge of this word? To answer these questions, all the schools of philosophy established their theory. Each school tried to answer or solve this problem of universal in their own independent way. These theories are known as realism, extreme realism, conceptualism, and nominalism, and so on. Buddhists holds the theory of nominalism, which is known as apohavad. Conceptualists hold that no universal exists in the outside world. They are only concepts which exist in the human mind. Whereas nominalists hold that the merely universals are words, and they became universal due to use of a number of different particulars. Now, you should know about what is the definition of apoha. Buddhists advanced a theory called apoha, which is fairly like the Western theory of nominalism. Apoha basically means exclusion. Words are the result of mental thought, and in this manner, they merely refer to mental pictures and can't be connected with realities that are external. Meaning, this means the connection of the word, the picture of the object or a thing. The word cannot directly be connected with objects that are external. It cannot hence denote the thing. The Buddhist attempts to form his nominalism or apohavad by making distinction between two forms of reality. The two forms of reality are the ultimate, which is also known as paramartha, the empirical, which is also known as samvriti satya. The ultimate is the world of particulars, point, moments, which is known as swalakshana, which are given in pure sensation, and the empirical is the word of universal, which is known as samanya lakshana, which are given by the understanding. Now, there is a famous Buddhist scholar known as Dharamkirti who makes distinction between swalakshana and samanya lakshana. Swalakshana has potency to generate effects. It is unique, definite and particular. It cannot be denoted by a word. It is cognizable without relying on other factors like verbal expression. Now, samanya lakshana. What is samanya lakshana? Samanya lakshana has no potency to generate effects. It is neither definite nor unique but universal. It can't be denoted by a word. It is not cognizable without relying on other factors like verbal expression. Thought and language deal with empirical word, which means word of universals, samanya lakshana. The word of universals is made by the understanding in order to know the streaming reality. Such creation is regular to human personality. It is because of the internal constructive tendency mutual to human beings, but since the real by nature is free from conceptual or relativity, thought and language neglect to touch it or away the reach of reality. But one cannot say that conceptual knowledge has no value. It has some practical value, however, ultimately it is illusory. The Buddhist, as I have said, that denies the reality of universals. This denial reaches to some very important issues related to conceptual knowledge and the importance of language as a source of the knowledge of reality. According to realists, which means Nyayikas, conceptual knowledge is a direct understanding of the real. According to them, words and concepts are related to real universals or particulars qualified by them. But according to Buddhists, who holds the position of anti-realism, the real is specific, particular, unique and momentary, which exists outside the reach of words and concepts. It is the ultimate reality apprehended in pure sensation. According to him, the universal is not real as it is not mentioned in pure sensation. According to Buddhists, the theory of apoha, all words, all concepts and even names too have no exact relation to reality. At the ultimate level, they are merely illusion, or we can say imaginary. All words, concepts are merely relative, limited, and so cannot be real. The object of conceptual knowledge is universal, which are only mental construction. And this conceptual knowledge, though ultimately not true, but empirically true and valid, because it has an indirect causal relation to reality. Dignaag, who was the father of medieval logic in India, was a great scholar of Indian philosophy. Vasubandhu, a great philosopher of Buddhist philosophy, was a teacher of Dignaag. Under his guidance, Dignaag got mastery of Vijnanavada theory and logic. Thereafter, he wrote many books, out of which the most important one is Pramana Samuchaya. The work Pramana Samuchaya is about epistemology, logic and semantics. In the work Pramanasamuchya, he discussed about nominalism, or we can say apoha vad. He states that names and words are connected to one another. All expressible knowledge is conceptual, and all conceptual knowledge is expressible. All words, all names, and all concepts are relative. Why? Because they are valid only in contrast with their opposites. In other words, a word can be explained merely negatively. It can explain its meaning merely by denying the opposite meaning. For example, a cow, which means a not known cow. A word provides us universals which are totally imaginary. So names are only illusory and negative. According to Dignag, word cannot express the real, the thing in itself. The real is only the thing in itself which is flux, which comes and then disappears at the same time, and therefore outside the reach of word. He says that names are the result of mental thought and vice versa. The names and the words are unable to touch the real. The names and the real are totally two different things. The name cannot express the real. The word apoha, which is the deprived form of anyapoha, means the exclusion of negation of others. For example, the word cow provides its own meaning merely by the exclusion of all those things which are other than cow. So, the whole function of concepts and words according to Dignag is to show the unity what includes temporal and qualitative differences. These concepts are the universals constructed by a thought owing to the intrinsic conceptualizing tendency of the human mind. They are merely relative and negative in nature. Dignag's nominalism was systematically developed by and explained by Dharamkirti. Dharamkirti, who was also a great philosopher, his famous works are Pramanavartika and Nyayabindu. Words, according to Dharamkirti, only have negation meaning. Why? Because what is positive cannot be expressed by a word. He denies the theory of double meaning of words, according to which a word do not have negative meaning, it only have positive meaning, and indirectly implies the negation of the opposite meaning. He maintains that what is essential for the comprehension of the meaning of words is the exclusion of the contrary meaning. Positive preference is not necessary at all. Moreover, the so-called positive meaning of words cannot be comprehended without excluding the opposite meaning. Therefore, exclusion of the contrary can alone be regarded as the meaning of words. The Buddhist states the negative meaning of words because it is a logical result of his rejection of the reality of universals in any form. If words had no negative meaning, universals would be real. But from the Buddhist point of view, being positive and being real are one and the same. So, the apoha universals, being negative in nature, they are not real entities at all, because it is a logical result of his rejection of the reality of universals in any form. If words had no negative meaning, universals would be real. But from the Buddhist point of view, being positive and being real are one and the same. So, the apoha universals, being negative in nature, they are not real entities at all. Further, according to Dharamkirti, if verbal knowledge is knowledge of real, then on listening the word blue, one should have the sensation of blue. But this is not the case. The former must be different from the latter. For him, the difference between the two cognitions depends upon the difference of their objects. He denies the realist view that both sensation and conception may have one and the similar object. According to him, if objects are held to be similar to different types of cognitions, then there would be misunderstanding of different means of knowledge. The object of conceptual knowledge is totally different from the object of perceptual knowledge and must be non-perceptual and vice versa. But the realist, Nyayikas, argues that one and the same object may be showed by the two cognitions in two different ways. The Buddhist denies this view of realist on the basis of the understanding of the real, which cannot be both clear and non-clear. And if this is not the case, then there would be no logical ground for making distinction between sensation and conception as different means of knowledge. If two means of knowledge are said to generate the knowledge of an identical object, then one of them would become unnecessary. The theory of apoha of Tignaag and Dharmakirti, which rejected that the words do not have any objectivity, was criticized by the realist scholars. The Mimamsa and the Nyaya school of philosophy playing an important role in rejecting the Buddhist nominalism. For Mimamsa, the word is an endless entity which has an endless connection with the universal and which constitutes its meaning. But for Nyaya, the word is not endless, but its meaning is set up either by divine or by human tradition. And it also indicated a positive real which have a definite class character. According to realists, the word composed of both types of facts, positive and negative. Reality has two characters of both existence and non-existence. So this is the reason that our language has both positive and negative words which shows these facts, but as far as Buddhist scholars concerned, facts are only positive and negations are only known entities. All words, names and concepts are only deal with negations because positive facts are out of reach of our language and thought. These are the main reasons which gave rise to controversy between the Buddhists and the realists over the objectivity of conceptual knowledge. Mimamsa scholar Kumaril says that the import of positive words is always positive. It can never be as negative. Apoha is merely negation for him. So it cannot be the object of verbal knowledge because those negation can figures in it. But for Buddhists, apoha is not any entity. It is merely negation or nothing, which does not have any meaning to affirm it as the meaning of words. It could too be stated that words do not have any meaning at all. Even if the meaning of words is viewed as ideal, according to Kumaril, words should be apprehended as entities which are positively. No doubt, the meaning of a word eliminates the meaning that is opposite, but this elimination can never be the content of verbal knowledge. Therefore, the Buddhist theory of meaning which is negative is opposite to all experience for Kumaril. Nyaya scholar Udyotakara states that one can know the exclusion of the opposite meaning only when one knows the positive meaning of a word. And it becomes nonsensical to talk about exclusion of the opposite meaning as their import if words do not refer to any positive meaning at all. He argues the import of words do not refer to negativity because nothing negative can be the object of a command or comprehension thereof. A thing which is not be as the content of cognition cannot be considered as its object, and this type of a view will definitely lead to nonsensical results. Again, for Kumaril, if words mean non-entities, there can be no difference between the meaning of words. What is different is only an entity. Because apoha has no character, it can never be different from anything. The ideas like unity, multiplicity and similarity can never be felt as apohas, which are away the reach of determinations. This criticism of Kumaril is directly against the Buddhist theory of non-being, which is also known as abhava. According to Buddhists, abhava, which do not have any causal efficiency, is a non-entity. It is an object of thought and cannot be a perceived fact. Whereas, on the other hand, for realists, abhav have two things, that is, correlative, pratiyugi, and a locus, adhikarna. So, it is totally real and distinguishable on the ground of these latter. But for Buddhists, there is no such ground for the distinction of known beings. Apohas do not have any positive correlative. They are similar as the refutation of hare's horn, which is fancies of imagination. Again, it can never be distinguished on the ground of locus because they do not have any locus. Again, Kumaril argues that the theory of apoha leads to nonsensical result only. The meaning of a word which is regarded as the negation of the opposite, now the opposite which is refuted ought to be either positive or negative. If it is considered as positive, it ought to be a universal because particulars for Buddhists are indeterminate and can never be negated or refuted. And if it is considered as negative, it cannot be refuted or negated because the negation of the only negation is not conceivable. If the Buddhist allows negation of the negation, then it will be a positive and a universal. But Kumaril argues that it is a positive universal if the negation of the opposite is totally different from the opposite, and it will be same or identical if it is not different from the opposite. So in the first case, the Buddhist has to agree with the universals, and in the second case, the Buddhist theory of meaning will totally fall down because a word may mean anything. So the Buddhists say that in defense of their theory of apoha is that the negation of the opposite is not mean the negation of the negation, but negation of positive thing which included under the opposite. So all the objections which are set above against his theory of apoha cannot be valid. Now Kumaril says that this clarification of Buddhists cannot be good in all cases. For example, the word cow. It will be nonsensical to state that its meaning is the negation of the positive things, which included under its opposite non-cow. This would make non-cow positive, so there will be no cow too, because according to Buddhists, cow is the negation of non-cow. This would make both the words cow and non-cow totally meaningless. These nonsensical results, Kumaril says, can be neglected and merely if words have positive meaning. Now let us revise what I have already said about the critical study of apoha. So we have seen that according to Buddhists, reality is composed of momentary particulars which are totally different. There is no sameness in reality for them. All ideas and thought of sameness or identity are referred to imagination. All class notions are construction of thought. They are only names having no objectivity. This is known as nominalism. The natural meaning of apoha is pure negation. As far as its reference, which is comprehensive, is concerned, apoha had only negative content. It does not have any kind of positive content or any kind of positive references. All words, all names and all concepts are relative because they are valid only in contrast with their opposites. In other words, a word can be explained merely negatively. It can explain its meaning merely by denying the opposite meaning. For example, a cow means a not known cow. A word provides us universals which are totally imaginary, so names are illusory and negative. According to Dignag, word cannot express the real, the thing in itself. The real is the only thing in itself which is flux, which comes and then disappears at one and the same time. Therefore, it is outside the reach of a word. He says that names are result of mental thought and vice versa. The names and the words are unable to touch the real. The names and the real are totally two different things. The name cannot express the real. The word apoha or the import of words is negative in nature for Buddhists. Apohas are different because of diversity in apohas, which means things to be excluded. The word apoha, which is the deprived form of anyapoha, means the exclusion of negation of others. For example, the word cow provides its meaning merely by the exclusion of all those things which are other than cow. Dignag's nominalism was systematically developed and explained by Dharamkirti. Dharamkirti, who was also a Buddhist philosopher, his famous works are Pramanavartika and Nyayabindu. Words, according to him, only have negative meaning because what is positive cannot be expressed. He denies the theory of double meaning of words, according to which a word do not have negative meaning, it only have positive meaning. And he maintains that what is essential for the comprehension of the meaning of words is the exclusion of the contrary meaning. So the apoha universals, being negative in nature, they are not real entities. Further, according to Dharamkirti, if verbal knowledge is knowledge of real, then on listening the word blue, one should have the sensation of blue. The criticism of the theory of apoha by Kumaril and Udyotakara raises three important points related to verbal knowledge. First, is the negation of opposite, which means apoha, a felt element in the apprehension of the import of words? Second, can negation without affirmation is possible? Third, can there be real difference and relations among words and concepts if they are purely conceptual constructions? Kumaril and Udyotakara answer all these three questions negatively and so reject apohavad as a theory. For them, it is not a tenable theory. That's all. Thank you.